Hello my lovelies and welcome to today's video, and today I'll be doing my monthly book club and it will be my top 5 books of the month that I've read. And yeah, 3 of them are from sort of the same vein. So the first one I read was The Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany and Jack Thorne, which, as I'm sure most of you know, is written as a play. So it's written in a play format. So you have names and then what's being said, and obviously in between that you have sort of descriptions of where they are and things like that. I think this was a really cool way of carrying on the Harry Potter story in a different format from just a novel. J.K. Rowling, to me, is one of the best authors in recent times. I absolutely adore her books, and yeah, I think this is brilliant. I read it very quickly. I read it in a couple of days. With it being a play format, it is a lot quicker and a lot easier to read, and you're not left with kind of unnecessary details, I suppose. So it makes it nice, very quick, very easy to read, and very enjoyable. So I would definitely recommend this. Basically, if you don't know, it is regarding Harry Potter's son, Draco Malfoy's son, obviously Hermione and Ron's children, and yeah, Harry's eldest son Albus and Draco's son Scorpius are best friends, although their parents really don't want them to be, and they end up meeting a girl called Delphine, and they want to go back to try and save Cedric Diggory and make sure that he doesn't die. Obviously, you mess with the past, weird things happen, they end up with time turners, and they end up discovering that Delphine is actually Voldemort's daughter, and she tries to resurrect Voldemort, etc. So it's all kind of runs in the same vein of Harry Potter, but with different characters and with a slightly varied storyline, and it's really fascinating. It's really interesting, and I would definitely recommend giving it a read. Now, the next one is not necessarily a novel, but I actually read this, which is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, by Newt Scamander or J.K. Rowling. Obviously, many of you know that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is actually a film. However, the film is not based on this. This is actually a textbook, weirdly. This was a book that was released for Comic Relief. All of the sales from this book went to Comic Relief, which is really good. It's really brilliant. But yes, this is basically a textbook. I mean, it's in some areas you have, as you see here on the front page, you have notes by Harry and Ron and other random things, and then when you get further into the book, you know, you have sort of the history of beasts and all of this sort of stuff. And then you literally have, like, you have here Doxy, and you also have the Ministry of Magic classification for this animal, which is its one cross is like, I don't know, an imp or something, or, you know, like a pet. And you then end up with, like, here you've got 5 crosses for dragon, which obviously means it's highly dangerous. And then you have information regarding the animal. So if we take here Bunderman, it has an MOM classification of 3. Bundermans are found worldwide, skilled at creeping under floorboards and behind skirting boards. They infest houses. The presence of one is usually announced by a foul stench of decay. The Bunderman at rest resembles a patch of greenish fungus with eyes. So you just get sort of like a general description of the animals, and I will say this was actually very good fun to read. Obviously, it's a very short book. I must say, I'm not as impressed with Hermione if this is how big textbooks are. But it's really quite interesting. It's really fun to read. And if you are a Harry Potter fan like I am, if you are a massive Potterhead, then I would definitely recommend giving that a go. And the next 2 books that I read were actually by the same author, and it's an author called Kate Moss. She wrote a set of books which are quite popular, Citadel, Labyrinth and Sepulchre. But she has written other books, and this is one of them. This is called The Winter Ghosts. And all of her books are based in the Languedoc region of France, or the Occitan region of France, which is in the French Pyrenees on the border of France and Spain. And it's one of my favourite areas of the world. I've never been, but I am very, very, very fascinated and very, very interested in that part of the world. So to me, these books are really, really interesting to read. They are historical fiction, so it's not... basically, that area of France was there was a religious war, way back in like the 1300s or something. There was a religious war between the Cathars and Catholics, and Catholics believed that Cathars were heretics, and there was a lot of heretical burning and all of this sort of stuff. But in this book, a young man whose brother died in the First World War, he goes away for his health. He really, really struggled with the death of his brother and ended up having a mental breakdown. So he went to France for his health, ended up in this region, and his car broke down, or his car crashed in the mountains, which is probably not the best place. And he ended up walking to the first village he found. And within this village, he goes to, a boarding house or whatever it may be, and he gets invited out that night to the local festival. He goes, and at the festival, he meets a woman called Fabrissa, and they talk all night. They get on really, really well. They really enjoy each other's company, etc., etc. And then the entire building gets raided by soldiers. Now, what he believed were German soldiers from the First World War, and so they leave. They run away through a secret passageway, and she ends up telling him about her life, etc., etc. And he then goes up into the mountains to try and rescue his car, and he ends up finding a blocked up cave with bones in it. And these were the bones of Cathar heretics that had left the village, gone up into the mountains and thought they were safe, and the soldiers had come along and bricked them in, and they all died. Now, what he'd actually witnessed was the ghost of this woman coming along to try and find her remains and, lay her to rest and all this sort of stuff. It was a very gripping book. I haven't explained it very well, but it was a very, very gripping book that kind of got at you. Not many books do that to me, but this one did actually get to me quite a bit, and I was a bit sort of like upset almost that this had happened to people. Now, I know about the Cathar history in that region, so I know that these things happened, and you sort of got to know them almost like they were real people, not a figment of someone's imagination. And the knowledge that they had suffered so much was actually quite difficult to read. But Kate Moss is an absolutely fantastic author. She really is incredible, and I would recommend reading her books. They are absolutely amazing. If you like historical fiction, I would definitely recommend her. And her other book that I've recently read is this, and it's called The Mistletoe Bride and Other Haunting Tales. And this is a compendium of, I wouldn't say ghost stories, but ghost stories, effectively. It says back here, rooted in the elemental landscapes of Sussex, Brittany and the Languedoc, here are tales of ghosts and spirits seeking revenge, grief-stricken women and haunted men coming to terms with their destiny. So this is a really good joining of different almost ghost stories, if you will. After every story there is an author's foreword, or before each story there's an author's foreword, for her to explain where these stories came from, the inspiration from them, and a lot of them are old stories from these particular areas. Like I said, they're based in Sussex, some are based in Sussex, some are based in Bournemouth, they are, Hampshire, and, France, Monseigneur, which is in the French Pyrenees, all of these sorts of places. And actually in here is a play that Kate Moss wrote for Sandy Toksvig, and if you don't know who Sandy Toksvig is, shame on you. You should watch QI. and discover who she is, because she's a very, very intelligent woman. She is very forward in gay rights. She is absolutely wonderful, and she's also a playwright. And for I can't remember what it's for. It's for something for the BBC, and they needed to create a play that was 27 minutes, I believe, exactly. And she wrote a play for that. So, and finally, this is another weird one, and I'm actually only partway through it, but I had to include it because it's so good. And it is Quidditch Through the Ages by Kenilworth Wisp, or by J.K. Rowling. And it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a short history of Quidditch, and that may seem like a weird thing for somebody to read, but it's another textbook almost from Hogwarts, and it was also in aid of Comic Relief, this one. So again, all of the proceeds from the book sales went to Comic Relief, which I think is incredible, and another reason why I bought the books, because even now, when you buy them, the proceeds, some of them have to go to Comic Relief, so yeah, I've done my bit. But no, it is literally just that. It is a short compendium of the history of Quidditch, where it came from, how it was invented, blah 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 blah. There are notes in there by Dumbledore, so it's a really quite an interesting read. And again, if you are a massive Potterhead, you will really enjoy that. If you aren't, then these won't mean anything to you, but these are books, Fantastic Beasts and Quidditch Through the Ages. These are books that we hear about Harry, Ron and Hermione and stuff reading. So it's quite nice to be able to get hold of those books and read them for yourself, to see what it was they were learning or what it was they were reading. It's a bit like if you got one of Belle's books, like if they produced one of the books that Belle was reading from Beauty and the Beast, or if they produced, I don't know, some books from Tolkien's world. It makes that world more believable, and it drags you further and further into a fantasy world, which I think it's incredible that somebody has created a world that is so in-depth they've produced textbooks for it. Like, that's just incredible to me. So anyway, that is the end of my book club for February, and I will see you guys for this video at the end of March. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and press the big red subscribe button to see some more of me. I will link all of the books mentioned down below and where you can buy them. And yeah, I will see you guys very soon. I will also link down below all of my Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, blog, all that sort of stuff. And I will see you guys on Saturday. Bye bye.